Hello, happy Friday. Back again with a little update to a video that I made a couple of weeks ago about my Harley Benton PB-50 precision bass. In the video, which I'll put the link at the bottom or in the comments or whatever it is you do, so you can look at that, or you can see it on my channel anyway. But the first video was just about the bass, a quick overview when it arrived, the day it arrived literally. And I had a little chat about what I wanted to do in terms of modifications. I've now started doing the modifications, so I wanted to do another video that is a bit shorter this time, but just to show really what I've done so far, and a couple of little surprises that have revealed themselves to me. So the first thing to do before I get into that is I just want to pop back quickly to my custom bass, the Bruno precision bass, which there's also a video for, which I'll put the link on as well, or you can check that out. That's my self-built precision bass that I made, the orange one, if you watch the video. When I did the video of that the other day, it was 99% complete. There was one thing I hadn't yet done to it, and that was put on some control knobs. So I got some control knobs for it, and they're on, and they look awesome. So I just want to show you those, so that's all done and finished. Usually on Fender precision basses, you've got the classic Fender style knobs, which are like the silver domed ones with the little sort of like texture around the outside. They're really cool, really understated, really classy, very Fender. My bass, my orange bass, is anything but understated, so I wanted to go for something a little bit different, so I went for some Gibson style control knobs, which you can see there. Can you see those? So they're clear ones with the numbers on. And they just look really cool. I think they're just a little bit different to the usual sort of P-bass look. As I said, it's not the most understated bass in the world, so I think it needed some suitably non-understated control knobs just to complete the look. So that's that anyway. That's the Bruno bass finished and all done, and I'm gonna gig that next weekend hopefully. So put that to one side and get back to the Harley Benton bass. First modification I wanted to do was to reshape the headstock. I don't like the headstock on it. It's a vintage looking bass, and the headstock's very modern looking, so it's a bit incongruous with the sort of the look of the bass. So the first thing to do was to reshape it into a more traditional early 50s Fender precision type shape, which is very similar to a Fender Telecaster, and here it is. That's what I've done. I'm quite pleased with. Basically took the guitar off the neck. Neck's really good. I'm gonna nitro this later. The nitro should arrive today, so that's going to be done later. But basically, just removed the tuners and reshaped it into a more sort of traditional Fender early 50s shape. I downloaded a template off the internet for the Mike Dirnt signature bass. Mike Dirnt from Green Day's got a signature Fender precision bass, which is based on a 50s shape. I found a template for that headstock. I don't know how that headstock is any different to the original 50s one. They look the same to me. There might be subtle differences, I don't know. But anyway, that's the one I downloaded. Cut it out very carefully, put it on the back of the headstock. I put it on the back because it's sort of flatter on the back, and the template just laid nicer on the back, and it also meant that I could line it up with the printed tuner holes which are on the template. Have I still got the template? I've still got the template, there it is. So I cut that out, it came as an A4. When I downloaded it, there's a whole load of Fender shapes, headstock shapes. It's a precision and a jazz, and so basically that's what I got. Cut around it very carefully and lined it up with the holes, the tuner holes, and then just drew around the template with pencil. And then I cut around the template with, I started using a hacksaw, and the hacksaw was kind of not really working. It's not really made for cutting in wood anyway, and it's not very good for curves. So I eventually borrowed a jigsaw, electric jigsaw. So it went around that about a millimetre, half a millimetre outside of the line, and then I just sanded off the meat with, I think, 80 grit sandpaper, and then went over it again with 120 grit sandpaper, and that's made it smooth enough, and it's really good. So I'm pleased with that. The decal came off pretty easily. It's like a screen printed type decal that just sanded off. I'm going to put a decal on it, not a fake Fender one, but a Fender style one, the same way that I did on this one. I did like Fender type font. I'm going to do Fender type font for the period of the bass as well, but it's not going to say Fender. So that's the neck. really good, really pleased with that. It looks great. The only little issue actually was the jigsaw tore up the corner here a little bit, so I had to sand off a bit more than I wanted. So that should probably be a little bit squarer, so maybe a bit too round, but doesn't matter, you're not going to see it. I don't even notice it now. So anyway, so yeah, so I'm going to put the nitro on this when it arrives later today, put the decal on it, probably put clear coat or maybe just some more nitro. Tinted amber I'm using for vintage look, and then that is done. Tuner's back on and we're good to go. So far so good. Let's get to the body. Now the body, the plan was to take the bridge off and replace it with a vintage style base bridge, and remove the scratch plate and just have it plain, so it's got that sort of more sort of plain minimal look, which I like. Don't really like the black scratch plate on it. So that was the plan. Unfortunately, as I took the base apart, its budget nature started to reveal itself. With scratch plate, without scratch plate, and as you'll see, we have a dirty grey hole in the body. Now, I'd seen on Base Chat, the forum, somebody else had this issue with a PB-50. They'd removed the scratch plate and found a great big hole. They assumed that somebody had bought the base, returned it, having attempted some sort of modifications, bodged it up and thought, uh-oh, put the scratch plate back on and return it quickly. And then he got this B-stock one and he assumed that that was why there was a great big hole in it. So when I got mine, I was surprised to find there's a great big hole in mine as well. There you go, massive hole in it with the wires. So the factory are obviously drilling holes to locate pickup wires. My friend on Base Chat, hello Davey if you're watching, but he also mentioned when he removed the control panel, the control plate rather, he found that there was loose wires that had been physically tied together, which is why he thought it had been modified and returned. I don't know if mine's got that because I haven't taken the control plate off, and I don't know if I want to now really. So I think it's just a bit shoddy, if I'm honest. I know it's a cheap base, I know it's only, you know, less than £100, but I think, you know, it's a tricky one because, like I say, it's a cheap base. You can't expect, you know, custom shop quality, but I think the hole is really disappointing. Now the other thing that you might have noticed is that the photo flame, or the paper that the photo flame grain is printed onto, ends very abruptly. You can see the edge of it under the lacquer. You can't feel it, there's so much lacquer on there, but you can see that line, which is really disappointing as well. So basically my plans to have it scratch plateless are not going to happen now. I'm going to have to put a scratch plate on it. I'm going to have to cover it up with something. So yeah, I'm not moaning about it because it is a cheap base, but I kind of think, well, it shouldn't really be there, whether it's cheap or not, you know, but it's not a big issue. It's still a nice instrument to play, and you know, I've had lots of guitars, loads of basses over the years. This is the first one I've ever taken the scratch plate off of, so who knows what horrors lurked beneath scratch plates on other guitars that I never removed scratch plates from. I wouldn't have known about it then, and it wouldn't have been an issue. So I'm just going to put the scratch plate on. What I'm going to do, actually, I don't like the black scratch plate really. I don't like the way it blends into the black of the sunburst. I've tried everywhere to find a white one of these, and they're so hard to find. I could get one custom made. Somebody quoted me about £65 to make me one. I mean, the base only cost like 85 or something. So my second choice, reluctant choice, is to paint it white. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Probably get some white plastic coat paint, or whatever it's called, and just give it a white coat, because I think the white will look really good. It will look more classic. It will look more sort of the period that the base design would have originated from. So yeah, it's a great big hole. Abrupt end of photo flame page. I guess if you're thinking of buying one of these to relic it, or to do whatever you want to do with it, to take the scratch plate off and have it minus the scratch plate, then just be aware really that it's got a hole. and you might get this kind of thing going on as well. Luckily, the black of the sunburst finish hides the edge, the edges where the scratch plate doesn't cover it, but you know, what can you do? So the other thing I was going to do as well was change the bridge to a vintage bridge. Now most bridges, you've got your screw holes that run down the back of the bridge, and sometimes they're universal and they'll match up. This one, as you can see, has got 4 screws and they're in the corner of the bridge, which means that if I do replace the bridge, I'm going to have to fill, you know, the vintage bridges are slightly smaller, so it won't cover these holes probably. It'll cover the back ones, but the front ones it won't cover. So I would have to fill those holes, and they'd be exposed, and it'd just look a bit rubbish, I think. So I'm probably not going to do that now. I might get an ashtray, the old, I'm sure you know what Fender ashtray is, but if you don't, it's the cover that Fender used to ship their basses with in the 50s and early 60s. They used to have metal chromed covers for the bridge and the pickup, but people just used to take them off because they used to get in the way of playing, and it meant you couldn't access the bridge very easily for adjustment. So in the end, Fender just stopped shipping them, but they do have quite a nice sort of vintage vibe to them, which is quite popular. So I might get one of those and put it over this. What I need to do is make sure that it will fit over, because it's quite a big bridge. So anyway, that's where we are so far. Like I say, I'm going to paint the scratch plate white, which I may well do that this afternoon, and pop that back on. I'm going to put flat wounds on it. I know I said in the video for this before that it's shipped, because all these ship with D'Addario strings. I think when I watched the video back, I think I said that it's shipped with flat wounds. I didn't mean flat wounds, obviously. I meant round wounds, so that's what it comes with. But I'm going to put flat wounds on it for more of a vintage vibe. I've never played flat wounds. I've never owned flat, you know, a bass with flat wounds on. When I think of flat wounds, I think of labellas, which seem to be the most popular, the sort of industry standard. But they're quite expensive. I've seen them from anything from like £50 down to £30 a set. They're obviously very high quality. Thomas Sticks as well, highly regarded, but again quite expensive. As a toe in the water, as an introduction to flat wounds, I'm probably just going to get some Fender ones, which are about £20 a pack, but they seem highly regarded too. So I'm going to whack some of those on and get some vintage thump going on this bass when it's reassembled. So yeah, so the bridge I'm really happy with. I think that's turned out really good. I think that'll look great once it's all amber tinted and everything, and decaled and reassembled. Disappointed with the hole, disappointed with the photo flame edge and the abrupt visible edge. The bridge isn't a big issue really. I mean, you know, the control plate. Oh, hold on a second. I think that might be my nitro just arrived. I'm just going to pause you a second. Back again, yeah. Nitro just arrived. While you're on, I'll just open it and have a look. So I forget what I was now saying about that, but yeah, you know, probably not going to replace the knobs or the control plate. I might open it up one day and see what the wiring's like inside. If I really like the bass, if I find myself playing it a lot and, you know, gigging it a lot, which I might do, then I may well upgrade the electrics and all that stuff anyway. So we'll see. But anyway, that's the bass. Let's have a look at the nitro. I like it when the postman brings me nice things. There we go. Vintage amber nitrocellulose. Got this from Northwest Guitars. I bought this via their store on Amazon on, what's today, Friday. I ordered this, I think Wednesday night, late Wednesday, shipped yesterday to arrive today, so you can't knock that. So I'm going to be giving my neck a bit of a coating in this later, and once it's all done and I've painted the scratch plate and I've added the decal and all the rest of it, then I'll do another video that just shows it all assembled. And yeah, happy days. Thank you very much.